welcome to the Designery podcast. Today's episode, we will talk about discovering the right industry for you as a designer. By the end of this conversation, you will learn how to choose the best industry for your skills, avoid getting stuck in the wrong fits, and grow with clarity in your design career. Today, we are joined by Emmanuel Michael. He's the lead product designer at Multigate, who's here to share real world lessons from his own journey. My name is Raphael Uzoagba. I'm your host today, and my co host is Kutaji. So, just quickly, Mano, please give us an introduction of yourself. Introduce yourself.
Okay. So I'm Emmanuel Michael. Let me know if you can hear me properly.
Yeah, can hear you.
Right. So I'm Emmanuel Michael. I'm a product designer at Multigate. Right. Um, I don't like to eat fish. I love I love to go, in the intersect of people and product. So as much as I love to design, I'm also fascinated by how, people come together and do things. Which is what has sort of like driven my curiosity into community building. Um, so yeah, I currently lead a community called Sections. It's a community for senior level designers, and it's been up there for about 3 years now. So yeah, pretty much that's it about me. Yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
great, interesting. Okay, so I just want to dive straight into the questions. I'm sure later more things will come up. So, I mean, before you became a lead product designer, how did you navigate your early decisions and where to apply your design skills?
So I so prior to prior to sort of like building a career in design, I was in marketing, right? I was in marketing comms. And so I've been doing that for quite some time. And when I decided to take on design, I wasn't so, keen on what industry to work on at the time. For me, it was where do I apply my skills, right? Where do I apply the skills and where do I grow and where do I earn? So those were the three things that were key to me at the time. So doubling down on what industry to work on wasn't priority. It was let's just get the job first and let's get better while doing it. And as we go, we might then decide which industry works. But then I think I realized that in 2012 or 2013, I got thrown into fintech fully. Now, prior to that time, I'd worked on a couple of side projects that were fintech driven. All right. I remember at the time, the agency where I was working in San Fran, they had a project for a particular fintech company called Our Pay, and it was an exciting project that I witnessed them work on, and I liked it, but I didn't know I was going to be thrown into that industry pretty much soon. So in 2023 or 2022, yeah, 2022, yes, I started working in fintech, and I realized that was exciting to me because it stretched my mind, especially when it has to do with data and analytics. I see how decisions are made in terms of numbers, and it was exciting to me, And I realized that after my first experience in 2022, I was still doing fintech in 2023, still doing fintech in 2024, and I'm here again in 2025. So that it shows you that that's like a path that I would really love to pursue. Right now, it's not to say I've not tried other industries. I've actually designed for fitness. I've designed for e-commerce. Right. I've even designed for ed tech, also designed for prop tech, right? But I have not really delved into it deep as much as I have with fintech. Exactly. So pretty much I'm still winging it, to be honest with you. I cannot say that I have it all figured out, right? Tomorrow I could get someone who's offering me a very good amount of money and also a very good adventure in terms of building a product. It could be something in EV that might interest me and I start working there and I realize that it checks a lot of things for me and I decide to go down into it for as long as I can. Exactly. So I'm not stuck or bent. on it has to be this particular industry. But yeah, I know where my strength lies.
Interesting, interesting. So, I mean, you mentioned something very interesting. I think that's something that, I mean, people would like to. I mean, when you're starting out, right? A lot of people would be thinking, should I niche down or should I be generalist or should I just move to where the money is? And you mentioned something earlier when you said, oh, you just want to get the job done and have money. Would you say that this is, I mean, how would you say these are important driving forces when making a decision in like picking a path?
No, so I think for designers who are starting, I would really advise that they do not sort of like niche down, right? Because it's very important that you have a taste of everything.
Mm,
Do you understand? And then you then know what your appetite level is and what sort of like sparks your fancy over time. Do you get me? And then also the experiences that you get along the way would also determine where you get, stuck on, right? Even your passion, your interest over time, right? You realize that there are certain things that differ in each of those industries, but you will not be able to decide it if you've not tasted each of them. So I would say that you don't just niche down on an industry because you might niche down on something and you're missing out on a lot of other things that sort of aligns with you, your strengths, your skills, your passion, your interests. Do you get? So I don't advise anyone to niche down. Be a generalist. Do you understand? At the end of the day, what should be focused for you at that time is how do you get better at what you do and how do you build some form of leverage for yourself as a designer.
that's great. And which like I mean, researching this topic because it's something that's really close home to me. I saw something an important an interesting statistic which said that over 60% of junior designers switch industries their first 3 years, right? Um, do you think that I mean, so do you think that switching industries just part when you're finding your path like you mentioned, you should be able to, taste as much as possible, while going. And how do you, at what point do you think you should say, oh, you know what, or you know what, this is where I should focus on, right? Or, I should just keep on being a generalist.
Yeah. So to be honest, now this is the reality of things, right? We're in a very fast paced, you know, space, which is design, right?
Yeah.
And not just even as individuals, you also see how companies pivot so quickly, right? You realize that, oh, a company is sort of like in this side of things, and in a couple of months, they tell you they're pivoting to something else, right? I'm sure that there are certain things that they've benchmarked against, right? There are certain things that they are measuring by. It's the same thing as individuals, as, early stage designers, right? There are certain things that we've benchmarked our skills to. We have expectations. For some people, for some people, it might be to be in an industry that is very collaborative, right? For some people, it might be to be in an industry that is culture focused, right? In terms of how they treat, their talents, right? In terms of how innovative people are in that industry. For some people, they like the adventure of working on creative things where they are not boxed. Do you understand? They want to explore, they want to create without limits. For some people, they don't want to feel micromanaged. Do you understand? And then you realize that there are some companies or industries you work in where these things play out, right? And then you realize most of them just want to move on to some other industries, right? For some people, it could also be the pay, right? I remember in 2021, 2020, 2021, people that were working in Web3 were earning way more than a lot of other folks, right? We can testify to that, right? Realize people, if you see a Web3 designer, you don't even want to tell you that they are earning so much. You get me? Because they were the big ballers, they were the spenders of, Web3 guys, crypto guys were sort of like exactly. And then after a while you realize that people that were working in the VR space were beginning to earn way better. Do you understand? So it's like
Mm,
things change. The dynamics of things change over time, and then people also sort of like adapt to it. Do you get? Especially for young designers, right? For you, a lot of young designers, what's very important to them at that time is to earn and to do good work, right? So that's it. For people like the senior folks, what they are most focused on is leadership growth and sustainability.
Hmm.
Do you understand? So that's
Yeah.
what's important for them is leadership, growth, sustainability, and at the end of the day is job security. Do you understand? Yeah. So but the other folks who are just coming in, yeah, job security might not be it. They just want to earn, right? They want to be in a place where they can put, their creative work into play, and they can also learn, right? Because another thing you also need to understand is that industries that don't give you the ability to learn, because the moment you start, they throw you into the fire, right? And you will
Mm.
start working, you make your mistakes, you would grow there. There's no one to bounce off with, nobody to talk to. Some people, in a bid to go after titles, they end up in companies where they'll give you the title, but you're the only designer there, right? So
Mm.
you feel me? So you want head of design, take it. But come
Yeah.
and be but come and be the only designer, and then you realize that when you get there, it's a struggle for you, and you see that those kind of people also would leave some industries and go to some other places where, oh, I rather work in maybe Stripe that is in fintech, and I know that they have a lot of designers and they can work in verticals, and I can learn, and I can also grow, and I can earn. So I would say early stage, that statistics might be very, very true, to be honest.
Interesting. And I think it's just speaking about growth. So like I have a question around there. Like, what's the difference between just getting a job as a designer and actually being in the right place for growth?
Okay, so the difference, so I'll break it down into different stratas, right? So let me take for one, let's say culture, industry culture, company culture, right? So when it is just a job, is when you're most likely you have very limited access to mentorship, right? Or guidance from experienced designers, right? That is
Yeah.
when it's just a job. You're just doing work, right? But where it becomes the right place to work or the right place for growth is when you have regular access to mentorship. There are companies that do that, right? You have people who provide constructive feedbacks to you, where it's not just you working, working, working. You have people who are very, very keen about your growth, your career growth. You have people asking you questions, right? What do you want to do next? How can we help? Where do we come in? What do you need? How can we support you? Right? So where you have a supportive culture that encourages feedback, fosters teamwork, that's when it is the right place to be. And it's not just a job. Do you understand? Another instance is where you have, when it's just a job, is where you have very minimal opportunities for professional development, right? The companies that you work in, they don't care about your professional development. Nobody's even asking questions. Everybody's just after the work, right? Just do your job, right? But then
Mm.
if you flip it the other way, it becomes the right place for growth when the company is willing to invest in trainings, right? They are willing to invest in workshop and conferences. I know of a friend who travels a lot and she attends conferences being paid by a company. Exactly. She travels a lot, right? When she comes back, I know that they have this culture where she comes back and then she does an internal workshop with the folks to sort of like run them through what the conference was about, what she got out of it, what are the action points for her, and how the team can benefit from it. It's exciting. You understand that everybody is involved in your growth, right? So and then it's the same thing. Like for me, my company, right? My company they paid for Udemy for everyone,
Mm.
right? And then you can go on Udemy, you can learn, and then if you think that there are courses outside of Udemy that you want to be a part of, you can let them know, give them a reason why you want to do it, and how it's beneficial to the company, and to be paid for. Do you understand? That's when there's a place for growth. Another would be You know, when you have limited interaction with, professionals within your space.
Mm.
Do you understand? That's when it's just a job. So you're not talking to anybody. No one is giving you advice. You're not bouncing off. Nobody's talking to you about how to do things better, how things should be done.
Yeah.
You're just doing it. You're just
Yeah.
just winging your day. So it's just a job at that point, right? But then it becomes the right place for growth when within that industry you have access to people that you can talk to. You have people who are concerned, who can take 1 hour of their day to talk to you, walk you through a couple of things. You might have challenges that you're facing, there are bottlenecks you want to cross, or there are blockers you want to clear out, and then you can talk to people who are also professionals that have gone ahead of you. It's just almost similar to mentorship, right?
Mm.
And then it's also just a job when the stress level is high. So I'll always say that, right? It's just a job when the stress level is high and the environment is so toxic and that there is no work balance. There's no work-life balance at all, right? Where you cannot voice out and say, "Oh, I feel like I am overworked," and somebody else might not take it as you saying that you want to leave your work or you want to
Mm.
leave, or you think that they're just paying you for fun, Abby. That's what you think they're doing here. So do you get? So
Yeah.
there are companies like that too. To be
No,
very fair,
no, don't worry. I don't think you've experienced this. No, they do. I
exactly.
mean,
So you'll be scared. You'll be scared to say you're tired. You'll be worried to say, "Oh, please, can you give me 1 day off? I have an
mm,
emergency that I want to sort," without them feeling like you are taking things for granted, right? Or you have a terrible migraine. Imagine the kind of industry that we are in. We do mental work,
yeah.
right? There are days where a whole day you cannot design.
Mm,
You know,
mm-hmm.
your mind is
Sure.
blocked. You're having serious headache, and you cannot go to your boss and say, "Oh, please, my head is banging, it's hot, I can't." And she's telling you, "What have you done today? Are you the only one that is designing?" I've been in your shoes. I was there. I've designed in very environments.
Uh,
Yes. So at that
yeah.
point, it's just a job, But then the right place would value that healthy balance between work and life. Do you understand? They allow you to recharge anytime and stay creative. That's why in some companies you see that they like to go for work retreats every quarter. They don't wait for the end of the year, right? It's every quarter they do that. For some companies, they value team bonding events, right? For some companies, you see my let me not cast my company, but I love my company, right? They usually take us for therapy session,
I've not heard about it. This is interesting. I mean,
right?
yeah.
It's amazing, right? And then there are days where we go to do yoga, right? I will
Wow.
do breathing exercises on weekends. So you see, those kind of so in as much as the work can be crazy and it's fast because we work in an agile environment. So it
Okay.
can be crazy. But then they understand that as much as life can be crazy, these people also they are humans. They need to also reboot to be fresh, you know, revitalize themselves. So I think with this little point of mine, I think I've just been able to explain the difference
Yeah.
between when it's just a job and when it's the right place for growth. Do you get? So these are factors that I also sort of consider.
And honestly, I like how you brought it home. Like you really give examples that we've all experienced. In fact,
Yeah,
at some point, I feel reiterating my personal experience, right? But, but yeah, it's good to see I'm not the only one that's gone through
you're not
such
the only
things.
one, my G. You're not the only one.
Yeah, but yeah, very interesting. And which leads into my next question. Coming up, it's kind of hard to know. Okay, what I mean, this is where I am. I like that. For instance, you've been in the fintech for years now. You've been in the fintech industry for years, and that's your strength, right? So, like, as a designer, how do you know, like, this? How did you realize, okay, this is the right industry for me? This is where I want to be for now. At least, I mean, things like you said, this could evolve, but for now, this is where my strength lies.
It could also be as a result of the companies that you got access to early,
Mm.
right? It might not just be it might not be that, oh, you sat down and say it has to be fintech
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or it has to be edtech. No, it could also be as a result of when you apply for jobs, the ones that
Mm-hmm.
actually want you. So for context, right, there are companies that would give you a shot for an interview if you align with what they're hiring for. So for instance, let's take for an example. If you'd worked in a bank before
Mm-hmm.
as an engineer, if you apply to a fintech, they will pick you.
Okay. Yes.
Do you know why? You are working with a delicate system,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've most likely built a CBS before, a central banking
Mm-hmm.
system. You've
Yeah.
most likely worked on a ledger. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it will be a lot different for them getting so somebody that might have worked in prop tech that is very good as a designer, like his UI skill is mad, or an engineer that has worked in prop tech and his work is tight. You might have more edge than him. You might not even have as much competence when it comes to delivering on the quality of work
Yeah.
that he has, but then you have industry experience,
Yeah.
right? And they'll pick you. Exactly. So that might happen over time, like that. It might happen over time. And you now have to sit down and say, okay, now that this is happening every time, it means that this is an industry that my strength lies in the most.
Mm.
Do you get? Now, how
Yeah.
do I get better at it so that I become an authority in it? Then
Mm.
you see someone like an engineer now will begin to learn about things that can keep him going. So not just about the current work he does. He might have to now go and start learning more about compliance, regulations. He might have to
Mm.
start learning about licensings, right? He might have to start learning about how to write, some codes that are in line with governing laws for finance. Do you understand? So at that moment, you're beginning to solidify yourself within that industry. So a random person who builds for fintech and then you has an in-depth understanding, not just as an engineer, but as an engineer that understands compliance, that understands sales, that understands revenue, that understands, so you begin to dive deeper into it. Then you become an authority. Then that's when you can say, oh, I am niching down to this industry because I have the knowledge that this industry requires. Do
Mm.
you get? So
Yeah.
for me, I have moved from the first fintech where I worked, we were doing local payments processing, right? POS terminals, invoicing, local transfers using local rails, outlet management. That was it at the time. And I did that for quite some time. And then I moved now into payments, but more advanced. This is cross border payments for large enterprises and companies, um, treasury management, cash flow management. So this is another side to fintech that is very much robust. Do you get?
Mm.
Now,
Yeah.
as I keep going, I might end up applying to another side of because fintech is not just, oh, you send money from here to here. It's way more than that. Do you get?
Mm.
I might go into
Yeah.
a different sector of fintech that deals with something else. But what I'm also trying to do, for instance, now is I want to take a diploma course in fintech, right?
Oh.
I'm planning to do that with CFI, sorry. So I want to take a diploma course. That way I'm able to understand things around stable coins and stable wallets. I'm able to understand compliance deeper when it comes to finance, right? I'm able to understand global requirements and licensing for companies, for small companies, large companies, so the moment I begin to now do this, I am saying that, oh, I want to now niche down into fintech. That's
Yeah.
the only industry I want to focus on, right? And become an authority in. Do you understand? So That's how I would rather approach it.
Mm, very interesting. Okay, I mean, that like brings me to my next question, right? You've worked in different places, you've had different experiences. Has there ever been a time like you felt like you were in the wrong place? Like you worked somewhere that you felt like, okay, this place is this place is not for me, and like are there any lessons that you got from there?
Yeah. So I think it would be so it will not be an industry thing. It will be a
Mhm.
company issue,
Okay.
right? Because for a lot of us, it's not the industry.
Mm.
To be fair, it's not the industry. Because as designers, I've come to realize that we can actually adapt in any industry,
Mm. Yeah.
right? We can actually adapt in any industry. The problem is where you work, the company where you work, the organization where you work, right? So you can have an organization that has a terrible culture as to how, like I said, they don't value work-life balance.
Yeah.
You can have another organization where you work where everything is political, right? Everyone is just doing eye service and your life is miserable because if you want to send an email, you want to watch your tone. You want to be sure you're sending the right thing. Or somebody is chatting you on Slack and in less than 1 minute that they dropped you a message, they are going to the group, the main channel to drop a message. So that's another problem. For some other people is that they work in companies where they feel micromanaged, right? You can't say that a person is like a design lead of a team, but then you have maybe the owner of the company, or let's say you have somebody in another department that feels like they have the autonomy to tell you how your work should look like.
Mm.
For someone who has never designed or cannot even sit for an hour to actually design something, right? You realize that they're making your work tiring. So that's why people would leave places. Do you get? So at the end of the day, I think those were things that made me leave some places. To be fair, it's not
Mm.
not necessarily about the industry.
Industry
It's
itself,
more
yeah.
around the organization. Because to be honest, before I apply to a job, I always try to go and see when people push job posting. I always like to go down. That's see more. I'll go
Mm.
down to go and read that their culture something because it's very very important to me. I won't lie
Mm.
to you. The whole job description, leave that one. We'll come back. But you see that culture thing, it's very, very important to me because bro, you work in some terrible places where they will make your life so miserable. Do you get? So but then when it's spelled out to me and I go for my interview, I'm going to reiterate it to them that oh on your job this thing, you guys said this. They'll say yes, it's okay. No matter. We've agreed that this exists. So as as we go on and I'm not seeing it, I can hold you accountable and say before I came in here, we had this conversation. This. What I'm seeing, no align. No. So it's either the company sits up or they do their worst, which is make you feel like you're the terrible one.
Mm.
So yeah, pretty much. Once that happens, I just know that I'm supposed to not be there, and I'm looking for somewhere else to be.
That's actually a very important thing. A lot of times, we go job searching, and all we are just looking for is what's the money, what are you looking for, what's the what's the
Yeah.
pay like? Yeah.
So like I said, and which is why I said that it differs for people. Entry level guys might not be bothered about this because for most of them, to earn is key and to design is important.
Mm.
But as you grow, you realize that your priorities change. You want to be in a place where you feel some level of calmness and warmth. Your life is
Mm.
already too hard. Do you get? Exactly, especially if you are married and you have children, your life is already hard. So,
Yeah.
so you don't want to be in a place that adds to it. So, because you are going to the office today, you're already thinking, "Oh God, why am I doing this?" Do you understand? Or your work doesn't excite you anymore. Like, so for people who grow, a lot of things change. So for them, it's job security, a conducive environment, a collaborative environment where there's teamwork, everybody's working together, where there's mutual respect. Do you understand? Exactly.
Yeah. Earlier when we were speaking, I just want to quickly circle back to something that you mentioned, which was very interesting. Something about job titles. So, I mean, how you could go to one company and they're saying head of design this. So, and it brings me to my question, which is what are common traps that we fall into when picking a place to work, industry to work in? Is it things like money, hype, or job titles?
So I think you've already mentioned it. Money, hype, job titles, to be very
Mm,
honest. Now,
mm,
there are people who don't care about any. Oh, okay. So there are people who care, one, for the money,
yeah.
right? Some people tell you, I'm gonna make the boss be devil. I don't
Yeah.
mind. I go to do my work. Make the sure they pay me my money.
Yeah.
Make I soft. Do you
True.
get?
Yeah.
So people don't mind to go through that entire, condescending behaviors from people.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people, they want to be in places where titles are given out so easily.
Mm.
Do you understand? Now, titles are not bad because, for one, I always tell people that if done right, titles are sort of metrics to help you know that you're growing. Right? If that's why I said if done right.
Right. Yeah.
If done right. And I also want people to understand that the the benchmark or the things that they use in measuring your growth differs for a lot of companies. It's not the same. And I don't want people to get lost in that ideology that, oh, this one we just start design 5 years ago or 6 years ago. They don't they give them senior designer. Whereas for Adobe, before you go be I mean Adobe, before you go be senior designer, you go don't work like 20 years.
Mm.
The question is, there are two different companies.
Yeah.
The structures are different. The expectations are different. The
Mm-hmm.
roadmap is different.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? So
Yeah.
as far as say no be him enter the company, go carry this thing right for an email saying I am the head of design. As far as say no be him right now, they actually gave it to him. They told him that we want to call you senior designer. That's on the company, right? Because you will be senior designer for a year. If you apply go somewhere like Monzo, maybe they give you junior designer. Or
Yeah.
may they don't even give you anything, just give you product designer. Sure you get.
Yeah.
but but the money is what makes you feel good. So which is why I say that I don't want to say they are pitfalls, but these are common things that happen to a lot of us. And most of us will go through it. Because see, you cannot like give you there's gonna be a point in your life where the reason why you want to move to that particular company or industry is because they pay higher.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily because they have passion for what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
And for some people, it might also be the title
Mm.
because some folks are fascinated by it,
Yeah.
and you cannot say it's a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want, and they will go for it, right? For some other people, it could also be that this particular industry offers job security.
Mm.
Do you get? So there are industries that people don't even know that is actually amazing because there are not a lot of people there. Do you get? Now, for you, you want to be in such industries because you know that before this industry will catch up to the hype of things, it might be in another 5 6 years. So it means that your job is secured till that time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So these are things that people always. So I don't think that I don't call them pitfalls, anyways.
Mm. Let's call them. They're just things that we get to experience along the way.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
experience it. It's going to be. It all forms part of the experience for you.
we have a
Yes,
question
because
in
I
the
would like
chat.
to.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a question in the chat, so I want Emmanuel to just quickly address. So someone, the person is also called Michael. So Michael is asking that why is it compulsory? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
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 Okay. So the person is asking why is it necessary or compulsory to have knowledge, understanding of a particular industry before applying for a role in such industry? So the person is trying to compare, okay, for a designer who designs for Web2, is it
Yeah.
compulsory to know about Web3 technologies like blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, token before for me to apply to Web3? So basically, the person is asking why
Yeah.
is it that companies require you to have a knowledge of the industry before you apply for their roles? So yeah, that's the question.
All
Thank you
right.
for the
So let me
question.
typically. Yeah. So let me just. I will just ask. It's like I'm going to ask the question again. So let's assume that you are the CEO of a fashion house, right? And you want to get tailors to come and work with you. What you do is suits. That's all you want to do. You want to just sew suits. But then there are tailors that sew kaftan. There are tailors that sew agbada. There are tailors that sew suits. Which one would you pick? And what would be your consideration? Would you say because you want to be fair and give everybody a chance, you will go for agbada and kaftan and leave the guy that sews suits, or because you know that you don't need to spend so much time offering training and spend too much time for onboarding, you can just get a suit guy and all you just need to do is tying into the culture of the company because he already knows how to sew what you want. It's just to align it with the culture. Which should you prefer?
So I think I think the answer is really straightforward in terms of you know business, especially business from a business person's point of view. Who's going to get
Exactly.
me results? Because that's what matters.
Because our industry is very fast. And I think people don't understand or realize that it's very rare that you work in a company and they are giving you enough time to understand the system.
Mm,
Nobody wants you to come and use their company as a learning ground,
mm,
especially if you're not coming as an intern.
mm.
Because even interns right now work, right? Even interns, they would ask you, what industry experience do you have prior to now?
Yeah.
Where have you worked? Have you worked in this industry? Because it's easy to have a conversation with someone who already has experience of an industry
Yeah.
over someone who doesn't, because there are certain things that they would not understand or know. And a lot of companies don't have the time and budget to wait on you to get there, because don't forget that while you are trying to take your time and understand, they're paying salaries. The job is They're paying salaries. Other people are dependent on your output. So imagine you now who is not so conversant with an industry, they employ you. Let's say for design, they take 2 sprints for design, and then the engineers need 3 to 4 sprints to build what you've done. But then because you don't have an understanding of the industry, you are using 2 sprints to understand, and then you use another 2 sprints to design. So it means that because of you, they will have to keep the engineers for eight sprints and pay them for 8 sprints and pay you
Mm,
for 4 sprints before a design will be out. So you see that it's not just about the design decisions, it's also about the business decisions. Also, because it's very, very important to every business. Training is a fundamental part of a company, but not everybody has the time and resources to do that, especially this period that we are in. Everybody wants results fast. Do you
yeah.
get?
Yeah.
Okay, so Emmanuel, so what would be your advice to somebody who wants to apply to an industry they don't have experience for? I think I have an idea of what your advice would be like, but I'll leave that to you.
Which is why I like this question, this thing this person just wrote now, right? Agency. So I know that agency can be crazy. I won't lie to you. I've actually worked in an agency. Agency can be crazy because they take on as many things as possible. They don't care. They will just be taking, and you'll be working like a mad person. But what it does for you is it exposes you to varieties of industries, right? Today, if you work for fintech, make tomorrow you go to work for crypto. Next tomorrow, you go work for prop tech. The other day, you go work for agri-tech. Do you get? So it
Yeah.
helps you explore different industries. This is why I always advise people to freelance early in their career,
Mm.
right? Freelance. Don't assume that the best food you've ever eaten in your life is egusi when you've not even gone for buffet. You've not gone to buffet.
Mm.
You're only eating egusi because your mom is cooking egusi. You think that's the best meal in the world. Go and eat buffet first. Chop rice, chop meat, chop stew. Then come
Mm.
back and decide which one works for you. Do you get? So that's what an agency offers you. So thank you so much for the person that dropped that, right? Because agency actually exposes you to that. And that's what also freelancing does for you. That way, it sort of opens your appetite, right? You opens your appetite and you can already tell from the things that you do how difficult an industry is or how easy it can be. You can also tell where your passion lies because I can tell you that there are some designs you work on. You can tell that this product, this design that you just worked on, you love to do it.
Mm.
It's interesting to you. It sparks your curiosity. You want to go deeper. You want to know more. There are some projects you just design surface level. You just do it so that you collect your money and go. Do you get? But there are some projects that you work within certain industries that you give in so much of your best to. You want to kill it. You want to ensure that you deliver so much on it. You realize that over time, you begin to navigate towards those kind of projects, those kind of industries.
Thank you so much for that. Just one of the last statements you made caught my attention, which is about interest, right? How important do you think it is aligning your passion for while searching for the industry fits that you want to work in?
So, lack of passion is a problem. So, let me put it this way, yeah. You would enjoy the work more if you are passionate about it.
Mm.
That's one thing I always tell myself sometimes is you love what you do, so keep going. Because there are days where you go day tough, work go won't finish you. You go
True.
no say this one like this, your brain, your mind of it carry am, right? But because you love what you do, you are willing enough to go the extra for it.
Mm.
Do you understand? You are willing to go harder. You don't want to go home. You want to try harder. So passion is important. Now, it's fine that at the start of your career, you might not be passionate enough because you want to earn. But over time, as you grow, there are projects or companies or industries that you begin to work in that begins to excite you because you become very much involved in it, right? You
Mm.
become passionate about it. Even when you talk about what you do, you are excited to talk about it. You find yourself wanting to talk about it at every point in time. So passion is very important. And and to be fair, passion needs to be something that designers take seriously. If you go as way back as guys that started designing, using Photoshop, using, Corel at the time, you realize
Mm.
that those guys enjoyed designing. They had passion for design. They can wake up at night and they're creating something that when you see, you can tell that, this guy feed on, sorry, but these guys suppose don't smoke like one kind thing. Because the way the guy they do this work is different. Do you get? It's different from what every other person is doing. Like that's because there's passion put into work. So I think, and I always say that passion is very important, man. Passion is very important.
Right. That's great. I have like two more questions before I hand over to Kotaje to like closing questions. One is because you mentioned something about like there's some mad industries that people don't even know about. Do you do you think, can you mention like any of these industries that people feel that are probably like underrated, even though people know about it's underrated? Um, yeah, that's the first question.
So I don't think that at the moment there are industries that are underrated.
Mm,
It's just that the entry to those industries might be too high, and
mm,
people are just shying away from it. Like, the industries, they require a lot from you.
mm,
Do you get? So
yeah.
one industry I want to go into is EV, right?
Okay.
It's EV because I'm looking at the projection, right? How things are going, and I'm beginning to see that in the next 3, 4, 5 years, massive things will be happening there, right? But then, to design for that industry, like I said, you also need to now research and study, you know, understand what that industry requires in terms of design, in terms of the user base. Who are the people that are engaged in this industry, in this space? What are their needs? Because when people hear EV, people think EV is just about cars. It's not just about cars, it's a lot. Some people, they are doing EV for cars. Some people are doing EVs for charging points. Some people are doing EV for rentals. Some people are doing EV for housing. Some people are doing a lot. Do you get? So, and there's money there. There's also money there. Do you get?
Yeah.
So if you are privileged enough to take your time to read, understand it, ask questions from people who work there already, go into it. Because I will. To be fair, I will do it. Maybe not now, but now I'm just gathering my thoughts and reading about it.
Yeah.
Do you get? So
Yeah.
another industry I would say is, because even health tech at a
Mm,
point used to be undervalued, but health tech now is a big deal, right? Because now you can see that there are a lot of systems, platforms that have been created for health tech. You can see flying doctors. You can see platforms that allow you talk to doctors and nurses, platforms that allow you order for drugs. You can see internal products where there's a product that services the entire operation of a particular, you know, pharmacy or clinic or hospital, from administration to doctor, checks and reports and all of that. So you see that those industries are also booming as much as possible. Even fintech, as we say, I always tell people that, you see, fintech in Nigeria is not the same as fintech in the West. There are a lot of things that they are doing out there that we've not even tapped into yet, right? So you might be thinking that, oh, we've exhausted it. We have not. It's just that where the money is coming to is into companies that do transfers. Carry money here, send money there. Carry money here, send money there. Do you get?
yeah.
So, but there are other things that they do in fintech that we've not even started doing yet. But I know that. So I don't want people to feel like, oh, the industries we're in is oversaturated. It's not. It's
Mm,
just that you might not have the skill and competence for the other side of things. So
mm,
it's just for you to identify where the skill gap is, get better at it, and apply to meet it. Do you get? So there's property tech now. In Lagos, there's been conversations about housing, and certain agency fees should not go beyond 10%. All of that. How then do you manage that? How do you create a system that can be managed? It could be a tech product.
mm,
Somebody will create it. How do you manage it? So pretty much there's no undervalued industry. It's just that there might be a skill gap within the region that we are in, such that because there's a skill gap, people are not considering those industries, but those industries are actually booming in other places, in other parts of the world.
interesting. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so I have one more question before I hand over. I mean, do what role does mentorship or community play in like helping designers find their best fit in industry?
So mentorship is very, very key and is very important. Now, it's also fine that you are able to navigate your way within your space and your industry by yourself. But why go through the stress where you can have someone who has walked the path shine their light on the road for you, right? Because they've
Yeah.
worked and they're willing to, as far as they're willing to guide you, then you're 10 steps away from someone who doesn't even want mentorship at all.
True. Very true.
There are mistakes you will never make again. There are certain things that you get real time clarity on, not just because there's so much going on around us. If you don't have mentors who can sort of help create a structure for you, you'll be taking in so much that you don't need.
Mm.
Do you understand? So mentors help you sort of like create structure around yourself. So I
Mm.
can go to my mentor now and say, this is happening, that is happening in my space. What do you think? What do you think I should focus on? He'll just tell you, see, guy, put your mind here, do this one, follow it through. If anything happens here, move here. There's guidance,
Yeah.
there's some level of counseling, there's some level of tutoring also, right? And it also ties into community, right? Because a lot of times you belong to communities where one of their biggest value is peer-to-peer learning. Do you get where you can reach out to someone like your peer who has worked the part, who has worked in an industry or an organization, or has applied to a particular job, or has access to some resources that would help you get better at the particular industry you're trying to go into. Because to be honest, if I say I want to go into EV now, I don't need to stress myself. I just need to go and find people that are there
Mm.
and go and ask questions. OG, I came before you. How can you help me? I came here before you. Help me.
Yeah.
So to be honest, why I don't because I don't want to stress myself. I just want you to help me. How do I get better at it? What should I be focusing on? How have you been able to navigate these parts that you've grown exponentially in it? Exactly. Are there things I need to focus on? Are there companies I also need to be targeting? Looking at where I'm at in terms of my skill, what do I need to be optimizing for? These are people that can help you. They will talk so mentorship is key. And community is also very important. I always tell people, but just ensure that you find the right community that aligns with your interests and your goals. It's very key. Same as mentors.
Yeah.
No be the mentor
Thank you
wey
so
go dey tell you say make you send am data o. No be that one.
True, true. All right, that's amazing. I mean, you really, even myself, I've learned a lot from you just having this conversation. So I'm going to hand over to Putaji for now to give the ask closing questions.
All right. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Michael. I hope my network will be good for this part where I'm going to handle this conversation. But I think my session is going to be very brief. So, Michael, you've shared a lot. And I know for our audience who are here and those who are going to listen to this recording later, they're going to get so much value. And I appreciate you for that. I think I have just my role in this session for today is just to handle the closing conversation. All right. But before I do that, I want you to basically tell us a bit about yourself, not just yourself, basically talk about. So it's this part where we want you to promote what you do. And I remember from our conversation, you told me you want to just talk about. I want us to just promote for you sections community. Tell us about sections community. Yeah, what sections community?
Yeah. So pretty much section is a community for designers, but more senior level guys.
Okay.
And like I said, it's been running for 3 years. The goal was to create some space where designers can come in and have conversations unfiltered, right? A space where you can reach out to anyone. A space where we can collectively learn and collectively grow, right? And how do we sort of make this happen? So what we do is we ensure that we have our bi-monthly hangouts that we do. These hangouts is where we just sit down, have good food, good drink, and catch up about work. We rant about work, talk about the things that we do, what is going on well, and not just work. We also catch up on our lives, our family, for those that are married. So more like an inner circle where we talk about things. Then we also hold like monthly virtual sessions where we get people in the community to sort of like workshop on a particular topic, right? So we
Yes.
have one coming up soon, but that's more focused on the internal guys, and it's by invite, where we'll be sitting together and everyone is with their laptops somewhere on the island, and then we're just learning things around design, maybe Framer, Webflow, maybe the new Figma sites, just sort of upskilling, right? And we've been doing that for quite some time now, and we've seen the growth. I know that one of the things people will say is, "Oh, I've been trying to apply to sections I've not gotten in," and that's okay, right? Because we're not focused on getting the numbers. For us, it's more about the people, right? I want to be able to create somewhere where everyone have access to everyone, right? And everybody is involved. I don't want the situation whereby you're in a community and then you are just in the community for 1 year, you never say shit, you don't say anything, right? So I rather we have 20 people in the community and the 20 people are openly, talking, openly conversating, and when reaching out. We also have the fellowship coming up pretty soon, sections fellowship. I don't want to let the bag out of the cat, right? But it's something we're working on for like a year now, right? So the sections fellowship for product designers, but senior guys also. So product design and brand designers, that's what fellowship is about. Where people would have like, like you said, they're going to have coaches who are their mentors for a period of 8 weeks, right? And then aside having those mentors, you're going to have tutors who are going to be responsible for workshopping things every week. So it's going to be an amazing one. So pretty much that's what we have going on. We've had like a major event in 2023 called Design Spin-off. That was an amazing event that we had. We also had
Yeah.
Design in Retrospect, where we
Yeah.
had Vito Factory and Kachi, you know, yeah, we've had a lot of things with sections, but this year we're deciding to, just focus more on skill development, and for other people who are focused on leadership, also sort of help them get better at it. So yeah.
All right. So thank you very much, Emmanuel. So if you are listening in, yeah, so everything Michael has talked about is true. I've been at a sections event myself. I think I attended the retrospective one where we have Victor Fatami and Dikachi come around. So yes, I'm really happy that you are intentional about not just having the community, but having the community of people who actively contribute, right? And that is not just a one-to-many connection in the community, it's a one-to-one connection. You have access to anybody. So if you have somebody working in the very high company, maybe the Netflix, Facebook, you have direct access to them. And I like the fact that you are emphasizing on skills growth. So yeah, so to our audience, please keep applying. I know, like Emmanuel said, it may not be easy to get into the sections community, but please do not let that discourage you. When you get in, you're going to
Yeah.
learn a lot. So yeah, apply. So we're going to share the links in the chat and also in our across our social media handles, so you can check them out on LinkedIn and also apply to join the community. All right, so Emmanuel, your closing thoughts. All right, so thank you for everything you've shared. Like I said before, we just have two questions for you to just give us your closing thoughts. So one of them, the first one here is, what piece of advice will you give a designer trying to discover their niche? Right. So I know you've said a lot, but like if you were to like, okay, my final thoughts that a father would give their son if they're about to pass on. But I know you're still alive for much longer. So yeah, what would be your piece of advice for a designer trying to discover their niche?
I can hear you. I think that's what I'm about. So I think the question I was trying to ask is, if you had just one piece of advice for a designer trying to discover your niche, what would that advice be?
So I would say that if you're early in your career, your focus shouldn't be on a niche. Try your hands on as much as you can. Work almost everywhere. Right. Biggest mistake you want to make in your life is you had opportunity to test waters and you didn't. Right. And you get stuck in one, and it's too late to pivot. But it's never too late to pivot. You can always try. Right. But for some people who already has worked over a period of time, I would say that focus on what gives you excitement. Focus on something that if you are woken up early in the morning to work on, you will not be grudging. You can work on it without stress, and it excites you. An industry where you are so eager to learn, right, about. You're not bothered about the complexities in it, because curiosity is what drives you, and then you're curious about that industry. That's where you should be. Do you get me? Look for an industry where your strength lies. You look for an industry where you have more support, right? It's very important. And I will also say that Do not shy away from an industry that pays you well and values you well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that. We have one more question, but Kutaji, I want us to take one of the questions because gives somebody from the comments dropped like two questions, but because of time, let us take one of the questions. So that
Okay.
if maybe we can reach out to you later so we can see if we can answer that question. But one of the questions is around finding high paying jobs as a designer. So right now that design is it seems like design industry is overcrowded and companies are leveraging to pay designers less and less.
The tides have changed, to be honest with you, except if you're not sensitive enough to understand what's going on within our industry. That's when somebody will come and lie to you and tell you, no, he's there. You have to keep trying harder. So what I'm going to say is look at what's going on around you. In all of the noise, you can tell where the gossip is. Do you get? So a lot of things are happening around you, but you can tell where the actual thing is, where the deal is, right? And then you can upskill for it. Because the difference between where you are and where you want to be is the absence of the skill that's required to get you there. Do you understand? So ensure that you're well equipped for it. Because now designers, a lot of things are going on. See, some people don't dey put juju inside this thing. Juju don't dey my bro. You go see some design. You go say, ah, oh, stop, no, see, see the song for here.
Real. I saw what
Yeah.
Airbnb did recently. I was just like, where, But yeah.
So then you realize that most of these things that they do are not far-fetched. You just don't have the competency for it yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've not
Yeah.
dedicated time enough to actually say you want to learn it. It's not like it's hard. It's just
Yeah.
time and effort that you need to put into it. So if an industry is paying higher, find what works in that industry and upskill for it. Do you get? So the industry is crowded, is overcrowded, yes. Companies are not paying, yes. But the truth is there are companies that are paying. And I also want to ensure that you're not also I also want to be sure or believe that you're not also overreaching.
Mm.
You understand? I
Yeah.
hope you're not overreaching. You don't have a loud truth. So that it's not like because in the past one company has paid you $5,000.
Mm,
I'm not thinking that it's going to be like that every time. It will not be. It's just that that company they have money that time. They
mm,
collect funding, so they did not know what to do with the money. They just dey do yafun yafun. Another
Yeah.
company, they fee no get like that.
yeah.
Do you get?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not to say that you should undervalue yourself and collect something that you're not supposed to earn, but also ensure that you're not overreaching and that you understand what that industry requires and what it offers to you also. Do you get? And I'll also say to the person that don't stop applying, right? Because that's all we can do. Don't stop applying, don't stop connecting. The tides have changed. Applying to a job is one thing. Understanding how to go the entire 9 years is another thing. Because I always say if you apply for a job is one, ensure that you can reach out to people that work in those places and sort of build some form of connection and rapport with them. Don't over push it. Don't come as desperate, but ensure that you get into a point where they understand that you're curious about what they do there. You're curious about understanding what the company stands for. And along the line, you let them know that you've applied to the company a couple of times, and then you really would love to, be a part of the company. Just keep things going organically, right? That's all I have to say.
All
Thank you
right.
so much
So
for that. Thank you so much for breaking it. So I just want to tell Gibbs, please maybe for the other question you have, could reach out to him. We're over time now. But if you could, if maybe reach out to him on LinkedIn. I think we're going to be dropping his links to social media directly. So yeah, thank you so much. All right, Kutaji, please.
Yeah, all right. So thank you for the questions. Thank you for the response, Michael. I don't think I have another question from our list, but I have a question for you. So when I started doing this PR, or when we did our PR for announcing you as our guest speaker, somebody asked what the meaning of CRSR, right? This CSR, like after you name Emmanuel Michael,
CSM.
CSM. What's the meaning of CSM? That's one question somebody specifically asked me. So yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, okay. I'm a certified Scrum Master.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. Somebody actually said chief section manager because they know you started the sections community.
So I'm actually a certified Scrum Master from Scrum Alliance.
Okay, okay. All right. So thank you. So to everybody listening, so today we've spoken about how you can discover the right industry for your career. Right. So Michael has talked about how to find industry fit, talked about mistakes, missteps, right? To know if the industry is right for you. And also if you are stuck between multiple industries, tech, fashion, how do you know which industry to focus on? If you are starting out, the advice is that you explore. So don't just settle into a particular industry. See the industry that you're passionate about and eventually double down into that industry. Then also in terms of mentorship, like you said, which is very important. So don't just pick anybody as your mentor. Study them. Make sure they are a mentor who is going in the direction that you want to pattern a career after. And those are the kind of people you'd have mentor you. Then also about the sections community, right? So yes, you definitely want to be part of that community, even though you said it's for industry leaders and top designers. But of course, you're looking to get there someday. Imagine as a junior, you
No,
are
it's
in
not
that
for
space.
industry leaders and top designers. Oh, I did not say that.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
what did you
hey,
say?
they track me. Oh.
Okay. All right, so please apply to be part of the sections community. They have a lot. Like from the little you've shared, I know you guys have a lot planned for the year, and I'm really excited about what's to come. So yes, you can follow Michael on LinkedIn. We're going to share his handles on our social media, so you follow him and also share the activities and the handle for the sections community. For us at the Designery, yes, we're here to ensure that you're never stuck. We're here to answer your questions, your career questions, to ensure that you continue growing. So follow us on our different social media platforms. We're on TikTok, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're also on Instagram. And of course, you can follow us on Luma so you are notified of every event. So we have more podcast episodes coming up. So see you in our next one. For now, bye bye.
Save, guys.